There are a few annoying times in the year for wristwatch wearers, and daylight savings is one of those times. Twice a year, every year, we have to remember to fall back or spring ahead. And if you live in Britain, like I do, it is daylight savings tomorrow. If you're in the USA or Canada, your daylight savings is next week because humans insist on making everything more difficult. But you know, over the years, I've been noticing there are a lot of daylight savings naysayers. The European Union and several US states, including California, Florida, and Oregon, want to drop it altogether. In 2022, Mexico ended daylight savings for most of the country, except an area along the US border, and China, India, and Japan do not use daylight savings time, nor does Hawaii, most of Arizona, and weirdly, the Yukon and most of Saskatchewan. In fact, only about 70 countries, or 40% of the globe, observes daylight savings, and 60% does not. But I'm one of those weirdos who loves daylight savings time, so here is my brief defense of daylight savings. So, energy conservation is the reason why daylight savings exists at all, and this whole setting clocks backwards or forwards by an hour is a relatively new thing. The earliest known time shift proposal was in 1895 from George Hudson of New Zealand, but daylight savings was never really put into practice until World War I. In the throes of war, the Germans were looking for a way to conserve energy, and this idea spread through a lot of Europe because, well, it does conserve energy. Industrialized societies follow a clock-based schedule that does not change throughout the course of a year. For example, the 9-to-5 workday, school timings, etc. And the further you move away from the equator, the more dramatic the length of daylight becomes during the summer and winter. So, resetting all the clocks in these regions makes sense for having longer daylight hours to help us make better use of available daylight. Not only this, but shifting the clocks is quite practical the further you get away from the equator. The sun rises around 4:30 at the summer solstice and sets around 19:30 or 7:30. Since most people are still asleep at 4:30 and very much awake at 19:30, it makes sense to bring the clocks ahead by an hour to treat 4:30 a.m. as 5:30 a.m. and for 19:30 to become 20:30. Basically, it just makes more sense for industrialized daily rhythms. Okay, I've been trying to use fancy arguments when really all it boils down to is that I think longer days are just nice. It's nice to finish work in the summer and still have the sun up to enjoy it while it's here. And it's nice to use the shorter days as well as we can in the winter. I'm really cloaking my love of longer days in the noble pursuit of energy conservation. Proponents against daylight savings argue that it no longer saves energy, and research has shown that daylight savings only causes a 1% energy increase. On top of that, there are apparent health and safety risks in resetting the time twice a year. In 2020, the American Academy of Sleep and Medicine found that disrupting the body's natural clock could cause an increased risk of stroke and heart attack, and it yearly leads to more traffic accidents. So that's pretty not great, but this video isn't about listening to the sensible arguments against daylight savings time, it's about blindly defending it, baby. Honestly, I know it's an unpopular thing to like resetting the clocks, but I weirdly kind of like it. I like special things in the calendar that breaks the routine and monotony of life. I like using daylight as efficiently as we can, and I think it is a good system for industrialized countries that are far away from the equator but not too close to the poles, which sounds very specific, but it is a good chunk of the world. But daylight savings is not a good system for more agrarian cultures or those on the equator or close to the poles. At the end of the day, sunlight is sunlight, and how we choose to measure a day differs depending on our location and lifestyle. There is no right or wrong answers, it is all relative to your view of time, how you and your culture structures a day, and where you are located on the globe. But with all that said, I think Saskatchewan should have daylight savings time, and that is a hill I will die on. Anyways, this was just a quick, short, fun video from me. Don't forget to set your clocks back if you're located in a place that observes daylight savings time. Don't drive if you think it will be unsafe. And subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, or else I'll put a curse, an unbreakable curse on you. Okay, bye! Really quickly, the names on the screen are the beautiful, gorgeous, fabulous, wonderful Pope tier patrons. They are people who support this channel, so thank you so much. Thank you to all tier of patrons. Thank you so much for supporting me and the work we do here. And because you guys do support me, it allows me to do more experimental videos like this one. But anyways, patrons, thank you. This isn't about me. This is about you. Thank you so much for supporting my weird little channel. Bye, guys.